Norv, good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Doing well. Thanks so much for joining us. And since your last stop was Minnesota, I wanted to ask you about the Vikings this year. They're looking to maybe lock down the number one seed, at least a bye in the NFC playoffs. Case Keenum's played so well. I know he wasn't there when you were there, but what have you seen from Case as he has kind of orchestrated this offense this season and how the Vikings have taken that next step?
Well, the two things. I mean, he just does not make mistakes. I mean, Case has played at such a high level, but just does not turn the ball over. They talked about him last night during the broadcast. Like he's kind of played like Houdini. He gets out of so much trouble and gets under pass rushers and escapes and makes throws on the run. The guys I was there with, obviously Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs. I'm so proud and watching them and how they've continued to grow. And we coached them for 3 years, and Thielen's such a great story. There's at different times people weren't sure he was good enough, or talked about replacing them or cutting them, or why is he in there playing, and he's just defied all the odds and just continues to make play after play after play. So that's really helped Case, having two explosive receivers on the outside and obviously Kyle on the inside. And they revamped the offensive line in the offseason, something they needed to do. So it all has kind of come together for them.
Is it possible Case Keenum was playing the position better than either Sam Bradford or Teddy Bridgewater had?
Well, it's just so hard because Sam got off to a great start and this year before he got hurt, and Teddy he won 11 games with some with what everyone I think realizes now. They struggled in the offensive line when he won 11 games at the quarterback position. But when you really look at it, Case is playing the quarterback position as well as anyone in the National Football League right now. So if you wanted to make that argument, I think you probably have a good case.
Norv Turner joins us here on the show. You had resigned from that position last year in November. What was the reason behind that?
Oh, it's a long time ago. We've moved on from there. It was I think go back and look at my comments. It was just something that I think needed to be done.
Are you wanting to get back into coaching?
I'm really healthy. I'm 65, but I think I'm a young 65. You play, can only play so much golf. So I've always told people it just have to be with the right people, the right guy, and the right organization. But yeah, I still have that fire in me.
Your career really took off when you were offensive coordinator with the Dallas Cowboys, going to back-to-back Super Bowls, winning them both. And Troy Aikman was a huge part of that, ends up in the Hall of Fame. But he never threw for more than 20 touchdowns except for one. So I always wondered, you guys had such an amazing offense, how much more could Troy Aikman have done statistically in your mind as you were coaching him if you guys didn't have one of the greatest running backs ever in Emmitt Smith and obviously wanted to feed the rock to the ground game?
Well, Troy is one of the most unselfish guys I've ever been around. And, there were times I'm sure he thought, we could have thrown there or we could have made a big play there, but he was the best at knowing what you had to do to win. And, I think he got some things, he was MVP in the Super Bowl and threw 4 touchdowns in that game. And we're playing a team that, was working hard to take away Emmett, and they gave us some opportunities to make big plays in the passing game. So people always chose their poison. The other thing, if you look at it, he didn't throw a lot of short touchdown passes. When we were inside the 5-yard line, we did feed the ball to Emmett. And Emmett scored a lot of, 2- and 1-yard touchdown runs where you watch some of these guys that have a higher touchdown ratio throw a lot of touchdown passes inside the 5. And it's not something we did. We could pound it in there, and we did. So that's why I really don't like the quarterback rating system, because touchdown passes are such a big part of it. And, some of it is misleading in terms of, what happens in the game and why a touchdown pass is thrown and why it isn't.
You left to become the head coach of Washington after that 93 season, after back-to-back Super Bowls. That, of course, would be the final season for Jimmy Johnson in Dallas as well. Now we have the story that has been told on both sides from both Jerry and Jimmy. Obviously, egos got in the way, and I think they both probably regret a little bit how that ended. Did you see that freight train coming? Was that at all part of the reason that you wanted to leave at that point to pursue a head coaching job?
Well, no. I mean, I think you have a chance to be a head coach in the National Football League. Your Gabe Wanstead was the coordinator and went to Chicago. The next year, I leave and go to Washington. I think you have an opportunity to be a head coach in the National Football League. Back then, there were actually 28 of them, I believe. So it's just something that is exciting and an opportunity to do it. I think there was always times that you knew that it wasn't the easiest thing with Jimmy and Jerry, but I don't think anyone could have predicted that was going to happen.
Norv Turner joining us this morning here on the show. One of the more indelible moments of the last 10 years of playoff football, I think, was Phillip Rivers playing hurt, torn ACL, going to Foxborough AFC Championship game. You were the head coach in San Diego at that time with the Chargers. That was a pretty brave moment for Rivers. How banged up was he, and how did you have to alter the game plan because of that?
Well, he was banged up. He actually, on Monday, they scoped his knee, and he didn't do a whole lot till Friday. You have to adjust the game plan, but he wasn't the only one banged up. Gates was on a foot that had a broken bone in it or plantar fascia, and it was pretty bad. He was hobbling around. We had a number of people that were pretty hobbled, but the opportunity to play, and it's funny because I just had a conversation with a couple of people about this the other day, and we were talking about how the decision was made, and the doctors confirmed that they felt he could play without doing more damage to it. My advice to Phillip was, Phillip, you're going to have a lot. You're a young guy. You're going to have these opportunities in the future. You don't need to play, but he really wanted to play, and it was a pretty amazing thing what he was able to do.
And he never got back to an AFC title game, at least not to this point in time. We'll see what happens with Phillip Rivers next couple of years in his career. It's really interesting because you were head coach in Oakland when the Raiders still had Al Davis at the helm, and now they've started to kind of turn the corner of not having so much losing, but you were there in the middle of that. How difficult was it to be a coach at that era with Al Davis, where he was in his life, in his career, and what he wanted to do as the owner?
Well, it's everyone knows Oakland was a volatile situation. When we were there, we had a high draft pick when I first got there, and and looking back, you wish we had a chance of really, I think, Phillip or Roethlisberger, or there was a number of quarterbacks that could have made a big difference. That's probably the most frustrating thing for me, that we didn't use that opportunity to do that. But it was a good experience for me, and every experience you learn from being around people. The league, every situation isn't a great situation. You try to make the most of it.
Everybody knows you for your offensive acumen, your championships in Dallas, being a head coach, and your football. But many people don't realize maybe that you've co-written a country song alongside former coach Steve Mariucci's son, Stephen Ray Mariucci, called Things I've Never Done. Why don't we cue up a clip here? You don't want to be saying anytime down the road, you wish you did this, wish you did that. I can hear you saying what you do right now. You'd go to the Indy 500 to hear those engines roar. The Kentucky Derby for the fastest 2 minutes in sport. Head south to Key West, write a country song. See if Willie will pick it up. So the song is Things I've Never Done, and sales from the song on both iTunes and Spotify are being donated to Make-A-Wish, which is really cool. You were born in North Carolina. How early were you around country music, Norv?
Well, I only lived in North Carolina for about 6 months. My father was in the Marines, and we moved around for a little bit after that and ended up in California as a young child. But I've always liked country music. We have family in Tennessee. California has more country music than people think, and all the way up from, Fresno, Bakersfield. Obviously, Bakersfield is known for country music. So I think growing up, I had a lot of people in my area, in a little town called Martinez, that listened to country music and played country music and liked it. And I just caught on with it. And during the 70s, when it really got big with Willie and Waylon and, all the great singers then, when it really started to come back. And, I like the old country. I like the new. I always told my kids, hey, listen to the lyrics. I don't know a whole lot about music or anything about music, but I do like the lyrics. And now the great thing about country music, it always tells a story. So I guess that was my intrigue with it or interest in it.
Pretty cool. Well, the song is called Things I've Never Done. It was co-written by Norv Turner along with former coach Steve Mariucci's son, Stephen Mary Mariucci. The sales from the song on iTunes and Spotify being donated to Make-A-Wish, which is a great thing this time of year. Norv, best of luck with the song. Best of luck getting back into coaching, and I appreciate the time.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. And I think the important thing, with the song is Steve's son, who sings the song. He goes by Stephen Ray. It was a really great process for me to watch how he went about doing. He's really a talented young musician. He's playing the guitar in the song. He obviously sings it, and he kind of taught me or showed me the process in songwriting. He's written a few. I had the original idea, and we kind of did it together. So he's really a talented guy, and everyone who hears the song, the first thing they say is, "Who's that singing? He's got a great voice." So, along with Make-A-Wish and being able to help out a little bit, I hope this kind of helps propel him a little bit and get some attention for him.
A much better singing voice than his dad, I would say. Way better.
Absolutely.
Very cool. Well, thanks so much, Norv. Happy holidays to you.
Okay, thank you.
Norv Turner joining us here on the show.